Morning guys, so I thought I'd do a video on politics today, but not from arguing, more a case of what the hell's going on. I do watch certain things from different angles just to try and get a context. Now, I find it bizarre the patterns that are obvious, yet but nobody talks about, because when you look at politics in the sense of Labour, Conservative, Republicans, Democrats, left, right, it's all like that. It's all floppy, all over the place, not solution orientated, high tension, high arguments, and like a puppet show. It's all non-output for the majority of the stuff. Unless you're in power, then you do what you want, then the other people come in and undo what you did. But they're not solution orientated, and this is the bit I think they don't even understand why people are getting frustrated and tired, and understand that every penny's being robbed from working people, at the same time telling people as well to ignore things like grooming gangs, ignore things about mass illegal migration, avoid things like the saturation of neighbourhoods that causes house prices and accommodation costs to go up, along with food costs, because they're all connected. It's a supply and demand. They pretend it doesn't happen or don't want to talk about that. What they'll talk about is Keir Starmer and his shaking hand. When it's Keir Starmer and Mandelson. Right, I'm not really interested that Keir Starmer has got association by default to Epstein now through Mandelson. Why? Because, well, we'll replace him. With what? They're all idiots. There's very few people there. Well, to be fair, there is not one person in the Labour Party that's sitting on that front bench. So I've got to be careful. I do actually know a couple of MPs actually try and do their job properly. That I would trust. Well, when I say trust, it's not even about whether they'd steal a fiver out of my wallet. More case of competent. You look at Lammy. You look at Angela Rayner. Lammy, I think we've got scandals to come from that guy. Something will hit at some point. Angela Rayner's obviously tax avoidance and all the stuff that she's done, and sued the NHS on behalf of her child, whatever went on there. Which I have no interest in the fact that she sued if something went wrong within the NHS. That's not a scandal. That's a public right when the system has failed. So I've got no interest in that. But it's whether she's done some tax dodgy stuff. You can't tell people to pay taxes and avoid taxes yourself. You've got to be holier than thou, I think they're saying this. And Keir Starmer, the Ukrainian male models, that I think another one come forward now, it's number 5, who's 19 years old, allegedly, because it may have had his birthday. That have attacked Starmer's houses and property and stuff, or his previous houses and property. You don't really get gangs of gay Ukrainians normally. It all sounds a bit weird to me. Almost like there's something else going on. A bit like living in Ali's house. There's something else going on. And this is my point. We're looking, oh look, his hand shaking. Ignore the Ukrainian rent boys. Ignore him living in his friend Ali's house, who's, I believe, a known man who likes other men. And how those two things could be connected. And then we get the, oh look at Mandelson. Oh yeah, he's been caught. Oh, he's in the Epstein papers, all that crap. We knew he was a crook a long time ago. The only issue Starmer's got on this front, oh, you hired him after knowing about it. Oh, is that it? Is that it? That's like saying you hired a known crook and you knew he was a crook. You go, yeah. I thought he'd do better this time. Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, I think, is was it 5 years grace or something? I can't remember. There is actually a if you've served your time, which I don't think he has, he's about to. Um, there is some grace periods. I'm not even defending Keir. I'm just saying that he's not even come on and said, "Well, I thought he'd changed and he was a better man," and he just looked completely broken, but not in the way that we assume. We're probably thinking he's broken inside. I think he was broken from he couldn't defend the position. Because bear in mind, everything he does, he talks as if he's the authority because of his legal background as a prosecutor that even went after British soldiers, which makes him on my hate list, to be fair. And it's pretty blank. But I just think Keir's a bad man. That's it. I'll leave it at that. But the reason I'm talking about this is I'm looking bigger picture. So just say Mandelson is connected to Epstein, right? So which seems to be where that's going. How's Epstein connected to Davos? Because I think there's a missing link there. And the problem I've got is I bite my lip on a lot of this stuff. So a lot of this stuff I've already talked to people for a long period of time, and they'll actually come up to me and say, "You said that a year ago." Yeah, because I don't put most of it on YouTube, but it's getting so obvious that I think it's worth just debating, discussing, getting your thoughts on it. So you've got that going on, right? So you've got Mandelson's now connected to Epstein, but where's Epstein connected to Davos? And then where does those connections go to the EU? And where does the baskets of money all appear and disappear? Because I think there's a lot more going on. And another thing I do recommend is having a look at Pizzagate, because that guy's career was destroyed. So look at the original stuff. Well, just look for Pizzagate and look gay. It's close enough. Pizzagate, and you'll connect some of the dots there, because he's gone back over the stuff because it's all coming out of the Epstein files now. Yeah, his career was targeted and destroyed. So where am I going? Right. I look at that Mondani guy in New York. That guy doesn't look like somebody who ties his own shoelaces. The way he's always pristine, the way he dressed, he looks like his parents still dress him. He doesn't seem to be of substance. Is it Gavin Nielsen out of California or Florida? I mix those two up because of the Disney World. Billions disappearing, and you look at him, and I assume he's gay. And I'm not saying it in a bad way. I assume he's gay. Then you look at the stuff that's going on with Minnesota and the Somalis there. But you look at Tampon Tim. Another weak character. Similar to Mandani. He's like, well, he doesn't actually dress that well, but they have this illusion that they're important because they've been picked up that way. And they're all in the middle of corruption. New York, they're going to struggle to make it corrupt after flooding it with people because there's no money left. So then you look at, why are all these people either weak characters or weak and often gay, or seem to have some sexual preferences that are, I can't even say questionable these days, because they go, "Oh, well, you're anti-gay." I'm not anti-gay because I've got, look, I'm going to do the old usual one. I've got gay friends, but no. What I'm saying is, I think there is some weakness the gay thing is secondary. I think there's a weakness in the characters of these individuals, but you seem to see a pattern of things that seem sexualized often. So let me throw Trudeau into the hat. Another gay guy, another politician, very weak, comes from family of influence. Then we throw Macron in the hat with his teacher wife, what the hell that is, because even that people are arguing over it's a man or a woman. What's it? I don't know what Macron's wife's name is, to be fair, because that's how much interest I take in it. And then you look at Spain, and we've got somebody who's not even a leader. He just aligns with people he can keep power with, which is Sanchez. Now, look at look for Daniel Boland. If you don't watch Daniel Boland, you'll probably like his videos better than mine. But he does a lot of satire and funny stuff about certain things. But as you're saying, these socialists, there's two, because I watch them sometimes on the news because they're always anti Vox and whatever, which are more a nationalistic political parties in Spain. But so they hate those. So these left wing always get a lot of media coverage. But the fact is, he was going on about this couple, right, that give the old left speech of wanting to live in a small area and live like a poor person, and they did in Madrid. Don't anymore. But like all the other people I mentioned, where's all the money come from? Those guys were living in a little flat in Madrid. Where did all the money come from? Because it's almost like everything's connected together. They pick these people up because they're politically active. They don't have common sense or debatable. They're left wing. They're like a Jeremy Corbyn. There is no halfway ground because they think they're special. I'll go on to Jeremy Corbyn in a minute. But the point being is they're getting funded. And they're actually getting funded with a lot of money. What's the factors in this, and who's profiteering? Because people don't destabilize the West just because of it's whites v black or Muslims v Christians and all that stuff. It's about real money. They don't care about people killing each other. No, that's nothing. It's like we're hearing about the Ukraine stuff. Ukraine's just a meat grinder. It's just to get rid of the males. It's not a solution orientated war. Because if you can get people that would actually fight for a country, which they are, and can wipe them out, that's part of the movement. Don't believe me? Have a look through for the Crusades and the connections on trying to stabilize and control people, because when you've got too many warriors and not enough wars, you've got to use them somewhere. Humans by nature have always been brutal, especially at the top. They don't care. I mean, it's a bit like people talk about the cousin marriages in the UK. I would also add, look at all the royal families in Europe. Incest is pretty normal, although for the plebs, we don't do that stuff anymore. Well, not in normal families. When I say normal families, I'm talking about Western, Christian, Protestants, probably Buddhists as well, I suppose. Do Buddhists do that? I don't think Buddhists marry their own cousins. And before anybody says, oh, it's because you've got an issue with it. Yeah, I do. Because if you look at the cousin marriages in certain areas of the UK, you'll see birth deformities and related defects come from, you know what, which is also a high imported group that are then reliant on working people to fund all the care and stuff for people with defects. There's no nice way of dealing with it. Like I said, even when you look at the Ukraine war, feeding men into the meat grinder, there's no nice thing about it. That's why I call it a meat grinder. I don't call it a war. It's a meat grinder. You're head to head with similar technology. You're being wiped out on both sides. Jeremy Corbyn. So in the UK, you have these pro-Palestinian activist nonsense. Let's just call them terrorists, because when you're attacking a British airbase, you're a terrorist. So it looks like they may be getting away with it, but we'll wait and see, because something's not right. But the fact Jeremy Corbyn was sort of celebrating it tells you everything you need to know about that guy. Because there was police injured in that, I believe there was a policewoman hit with a sledgehammer, and he's celebrating people doing that illegal activity in the United Kingdom. Interesting. And we wonder why the centre and the right need to wake up. These people believe doing bad things is normal and acceptable. What that looks like, I have no idea though. It's definitely not Farage. If I had snake oil, that's the guy that could sell it for me. People say, well, Ben Habib. Well, I don't think he's got enough momentum. What about Rupert Lowe? I think Rupert Lowe is like a last bastion. He'll be a guy standing on the hilltop trying to rally when he can rally about 100 people against 10,000 and hoping he can come out the other side. I think Rupert Lowe, from everything I've seen, is the only one with integrity. But I also think the problem is a lot of the political people out there aren't actually aligned with anything. They're all watered down. Rupert Lowe doesn't need one person, he needs hundreds. And he's not got that at the minute. And you won't get that because you won't get through a lot of the local elections to become an MP, thanks to the way the left has polluted the education system, thanks to the way people think about the way the world is functioning without understanding everything around us is eroding. And it's eroding unnecessarily. I think I mentioned this before, but a lot of this stuff goes on my deleted videos because I'll talk like this, gets too political, and I'll delete it, because although it's all true, it's starting to get concerning, because I'll happily support somebody, but I can't stick my head out all the time. So Larry Fink, I think he's the guy that's BlackRock. Now, this is the guy that was pro-immigration. This is the guy that's pro-flooding countries with what we have now. And the weird thing is, there's people I know that have come in from other countries, from India, Nigeria, Spain, whatever. And they all work. So there's nurses, you've got security. The fact is, they're all paying their way. And they don't have 7 kids. Most of them ain't even married. So the point is, these guys are paying into the system. So we need to separate the two, but not completely. Because these guys that are coming in on boats, they're never going to pay away. They have no intention of paying away. There is nobody I know that would think going on a boat would be the perfect solution. They're low IQ, most of them, low value, hence the crime rate's going through the roof. Well, what do you mean? You're racist? No, right. Let me stop you there a minute. How many are Filipinos? How many are Filipinos coming in on those boats? I'm going to call them real Asians, because I'm not going to call them East Asians, because that brings in Pakistan and India. I'm talking about how many Chinese, Chinese, Thai, Vietnamese, Filipinos do you see? Why have I to separate those? Well, one of the things I know in the Philippines is education's important. They produce a stupid amount of nurses, doctors, engineers, and other people with degrees and skills that makes them capable of working. Even on that's a bit unfair, but even in the service industry. So, for example, catering, so cooking, drink, bar services, um, hoteliers, all that sort of stuff. They create industries for this en masse. This is why they have OFWs. Even in the airports, they have an OFW lane, which is overseas Filipino worker. They get treated as a different class because they're bringing money back to the country. They're celebrated in that way. Yeah, I don't see them on the dinghies. And if people are talking poverty, those countries have poverty, all of them. They're not on the dinghies. What we're getting is Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, Indians, and others, Afghanis, etc. Yeah, but their countries are they cut the country off. I'm not interested. The reality, this is the brainwashing stuff, which it connects all the dots throughout. I remember, I was with Jovi, my wife's sister, and she was doing government aid projects right out in the mountains, right out. It's on a different island. I mean, we went on a motorbike, and I think it took us, was it at least 5 hours on the motorbike? It's miles. I remember my backside being sore because there was no tarmac. It was just the hardcore for miles, for hours. But there was a woman there, and she's got a rice sack, and she's converted the rice sack into a baby carrier. And she's got the baby in there, and they're there for like £1 or something silly. Nothing. But the thing is, even there, they're not that far from us in the sense of we're up at Cebu City area. So we're up in Cebu Island. They're on Negros, another island. But I literally got a ferry there for like 25 pence or something stupid. But the price cost between the two islands was massive. And we're all in the same country. Well, what do you mean? Well, even if you went to a restaurant, it seemed like it was a third of the cost. Because the economy adapts to the area. So what's the relevance? Well, when they keep quoting, this person only has $1 a day. Yeah. Okay. What can he buy for $1? Well, if he was in New York, he wouldn't buy a coffee. Yeah, right. He'd probably need about $6. But in the Philippines, 100 pesos. Let's just call it 100 pesos. I could buy a bag of rice that's already cooked, and maybe a bit of tuna or spam or something, and probably had about 30 pesos left. Really? Yeah. So there's enough for food. Oh, what about rent? A lot of people own their own properties. A lot of people are squatting illegally. And when I say a lot, I mean I'm talking about thousands and tens of thousands in some of these areas. But the society still functions. Oh, what was a medical emergency? Yeah, you're right. There ain't enough money. But have a look at Marcos. Oh, all right, I'll finish off with Marcos. I'm going to throw you that one. Is it Bong or Bing? Marcos? look at that guy and the stuff he's been wrapped up in. Because he was even connected to the Rolling Stones about being this little Asian guy that was taking drugs, heavily drugs, when they were at college or something. Because they didn't even know who he was. But yeah, he's one of the Marcos family. But he's just pilfered the state healthcare system. Another little strange guy with a lot of very weak individual who's also somebody died of a drug overdose, and him and his wife are connected to it. You'll have to read that one up, but I'll part that for now because I'm going off on a tangent. But the point is, you can live on $1 a day. They don't mention that. The best thing you could do with those community is probably give them some carabao, which are like buffalo, water buffalo. Why? Because it makes their life easier, because they work in the fields. They don't want a bigger house. They don't want a newer house. They don't want their life overcomplicated. They don't need it. Well, that's a bit arrogant, isn't it? You're a bit arrogant assuming you need to change other people's lives. You can help them, but shouldn't interfere. My point being is most of these people were sustainable where they were. Bringing them all to Europe is destabilise Europe, because house prices, this place here, is nearly doubled in 5 years, the rent. Food costs are at least 30-40%. And this all ties back to, COVID. COVID was the great reset from what I can see. It's where you could get everybody to just do as they were told and see how far you could push them. And now we're seeing the outcomes, because it took the steam out of a lot of people. But it also damaged how much control the government had. What's my point? Everything seems to be connected. Everything seems to be through the guys at the World Economic Forum. Epstein stuff seems to be wrapping everything up. And the bits that aren't getting seen, which will be interesting, is where the money trails are. Because is there Chinese money in this? Is there somebody mentioned Qatari money with the EU recently? Was it the vice president or whatever with the suitcases of cash? There's something at play. They won't bring Europe down. They can damage it, but history has always dictated, go one way, it swings the other way. Spain was already lost to the Moors previously, and they retook it. We're looking at an event that may create a massive event afterwards, which is sad, but we can't control it. But what I'm looking for is the threads. So if you find anything interesting, please put them in the links below. Put links below, so I can have a look at them. Because I've tried to keep on the peripheral, where you start thinking, well, why so many politicians weak gay men? I mean, I'm looking at Starman. I think he's a weak gay man, to be perfectly honest. His authority comes from training for his legal positioning on their prosecution. Because the thing with legal positioning, it's all theatre. Because the law itself is very verbose and dictated and structured. So understanding the law is part of it. But the winning thing is to show that you're an authority. I'm important. I speak from authority. I know what I'm talking about. And I've seen this even in the business environments, where people will talk with utter lies. But because they speak in authority, I'm using pseudo-cream on my elbows. Really good stuff, this. I do recommend that. If you go to the Philippines, this is like a miracle thing. It cures a lot of stuff. It wasn't available when I went to the Philippines. Might be now, but I do recommend. People will love you if you bring them pseudo-cream. It's great stuff. because you use it for everything. Yeah. So I'm an authority. I've been caught lying. I said I've been caught that something's not true. Not lying, not true. So a fact has been stated that something is not correct. The reason I'm keeping it obscure because it's not relevant in the way you're thinking it's relevant. But I just go, no, you're incorrect. We definitely did that, and I'm sure we got files on that. I don't know where you've got your figures from. Spoken as authority. The person who actually had the information suddenly thinks, have I missed something? Did I miss something? But the meeting's over because they couldn't come back. They couldn't come back with a response because I blatantly lied to that person, and he's confused because he's sure he's got all the facts, but he couldn't counteract them. Why? Because there was nothing to counteract. Which gets back to why we have all these weak people and the politicians just argue like this and don't produce anything. We're not looking for money trails. Where's that? I'll just say, you know what? I don't care what Keir's doing. I'm not interested in whether he likes young men or whatever unless it's illegal. And at that point, the police need to start doing their job for a change. But what I do want, I want to know why his wealth's increased significantly. I want to know why Macron's wealth's increased significantly. I want to know why Gavin Newsom's wealth's increased significantly. I want to know why Sadiq Khan's wealth has increased significantly. And I also want to know, is there any connections to foreign influence and corruption? That's all. Do those three things. And then you go back to bickering each other. But why don't they do that? Your guess is as good as mine. But I will say this is why I like Trump and not for the way Trump is. I'll finish with Trump because I was going to go on for 40 minutes now. Trump, for me, talks business. So when he was talking about Greenland, he had no intention of taking the whole of Greenland. He just needs to lay that out on the table. Why? Because then they start panicking and then they come to an arrangement, an agreement and stuff. So it then becomes solution orientated. See, solution. Because he knows he's not going to get Greenland. He knew that before he mentioned it. What he looked for is he wants to expand his base, whatever he wants to do there. So he throws out, he'll just take Greenland over, triggers all these people arguing with each other, and then they go, well, we'll have to make a compromise. Well, this may shock you. Maybe the compromise was the objective. If you look at most of the way Trump does things, he throws big things out there to see where it lands, see what the resistance is, see where the failings are, so he can actually wade through the crap and then come out with things in his favour. In the same way, as you probably notice with the stuff that's going on with those Somali lot, he's only tiptoeing in and out of it because he doesn't need to get involved. The work's already getting done. There's already people doing it. It's like ICE. ICE is already off on their own. No point chasing Trump about ICE every week now. He's already passed that on. It's doing what he'd planned to do. It's moving. Move away from that now. Moving on to something else. But he's doing, like I was saying, the bickering stuff, right? So the left focus on ICE. They're still focused there. Trump's already on at the next thing. He's looking at Iran. He's looking at other things that need movement. Because he's not planning on running everything, because the one thing I will say about Trump is he's smart enough to surround himself with smart people. As such, you will see things occur that will stabilise things, or they'll suddenly become controlled by other people. So like there with the Minnesota and whatever, he's not having it drive that anymore. He's got ICE, he's got prosecutors and other people all over it like a rash. And now he's found that thread, and he's pulling at it, he's finding the corruption. And that corruption leads to tampon Tim, and it'll be the same for every politician that's been harping on for the last few years. They've all been pigs in the trough. However, as I say, billions have disappeared. Billions. Who's controlling the billions? Because these guys are millions, not billions, millions. Which means that there's a bigger trail going on. And if I was Trump in that position, you've got to get the investigations going here, and then you need some specialist guys that do forensic auditing and start tying the web together. And that's when you start working your way up. And we end back at Epstein Island. Why do I keep mentioning Epstein Island? A remote island. What do you think? People coming in and out of the country whenever they want. Like the World Economic Forum, it's become too central. Too many people are seen there. Not everybody's aligned all the time. So that there will be conversations going on behind the closed doors. But the thing with Epstein, although people say, oh yeah, he's because he was controlling, he was like, it's because he was, manipulating people. He was, for who? Do you think it's just for himself? You don't climb to that position on your own. He was raised there, which meant he had other people that he was following. It also means that there's other stuff that we're not even seeing. And it's understanding what all the connections are. And that's why I don't think you'll see everything in the Epstein files, because I think there's bigger stuff going on. Doesn't mean Trump's corrupt, but it may be things are being controlled for other reasons that we can't see yet. I can't see Epstein, for example, working for the Russians. Not in that way. Maybe doing some deals there. You get people fly in for some deals. But that's the same way with everything else. It's just a island in the middle of nowhere where people can turn up for a party. And this is where you get this stuff about satanic and all that stuff going. Yeah, it does seem a lot of that stuff was going on, I agree. But it's not the only stuff. It can't be. Because that doesn't generate cash. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Thanks for watching.